incest made under the garb of dark humour at comedian Samay Raina's YouTube show India's Got Latent. The remark by Allahbadia has triggered massive outrage. Netizens are up in arms, from losing nearly 2 million subscribers to commercial boycott by a certain brands and legal trouble in terms of several complaints being filed by social activists. There's a national demand calling for action. And while the podcasters issued an apology, the whole episode has opened up a Pandora's box, with the clamour for regulation of online content only growing louder by the hour. But to understand whether or not these content creators are taking it too far, we need to understand the factors responsible for a speedy transition of the digital space in our country. The first big factor is how social media has turned out to be a shot to fame for many aspiring bloggers. And who is to be blamed for the kind of growth of this offensive content online, viewers? While today netizens are up in arms against the show that has brought bad name to Ranveer's reputation, it is this very show that is being viewed by people across the country and in stunning numbers. Launched on 14th of June 2024 on YouTube, comedian Samay Raina's India's Got Latent has been the talk of the town, attracting record viewership numbers. To take you through a few examples, the third episode, which was aired on the 28th July last year, received a viewership of 30 million. The very next episode, featuring Anshu Nishant and Karan Singh, received a viewership of 34 million. Episode number 9, which aired on the 13th of October last year, also received about 34 million views. And 2 episodes later, a whopping 40 million viewers tuned in to watch the 11th episode of the show. And the very episode before this entire controversy received nearly 39 million views. So with 25 to 30 million views on an average, it becomes the responsibility of the producers as well to ensure the delivery of responsible content online. However, the content on the show has largely been unchecked and unfiltered. And the guests invited on the show is also a story of recognition that the show gets from the industry at large to an extent. While many renowned guests have been called as panelists to the show, there are those mired in controversy ones. Here are some of the guest appearances. Rakhi Sawant, an actress, now a popular internet personality, has also made it to the show as a guest, as a special panelist. Poonam Pandey, an actress known to have faked her death to spread awareness about breast cancer, had also taken part in one such episode. Tanmay Bhatt, a comedian said to have been cognizant of the allegations of sexual misconduct against comedian Utsav Chakrabarti, was one of the special appearances. Raftaar, a popular rapper and lyricist, needs no introduction, also made it to the show along with Urfi Javed, another popular internet personality, and not to forget to mention Maheep Singh, comedian who has often landed in trouble for his humour. And in the wake of this raging controversy, the focus is now on action. Maharashtra Chief Minister has assured action against such crass content. In the meanwhile, the centre has also taken cognizance. Top sources have informed CNN News 18 that the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is likely to initiate action against social media platforms, and the Joint Secretary has been given instructions to take action. Furthermore, the action will be based on information technology rules and not content creation freedom, as self-regulation is as necessary as freedom of speech. But viewers, this has also raised a number of questions. For instance, are we normalizing crass content in the name of dark humour? Because there's clearly a shift in pattern on what we're consuming online. How are the young audiences being protected from such content? With this controversy, this is a concern which has been highlighted by several parents, especially of teenagers, of the young. Why is indecent content not being monitored actively? Another concern that's been raised by netizens. And why not impose penalties on those creators, those social media influencers who cross this line that perhaps needs to be drawn in a stricter manner? And time for government really to formulate robust regulation guidelines and overall in social media content, and what really guides what is apt to go on social media and what isn't. And why should social media not follow mainstream media laws? Some of these questions that we're going to raise in the evening in just a bit. But with the increasing use of some of these online platforms, viewers, a growing concern about the prevalence of abusive content has emerged. And while the rules have it that some of these checks and balances are in place, it's Is it now time for an overall regulation of online content in the country? That's the question we asked this evening. And also, how much of a role do we play as individuals in deciding the online consumption pattern of the country? We'll take that up with our experts in just a bit. Here are the top reactions that have come in so far.
Please remember, I am a person who appreciates BeerBiceps. I like his videos. But this occasion, he has crossed the line. This is absolutely unacceptable.
My comment wasn't just inappropriate, it wasn't even funny. Comedy is not my forte. I'm just here to say sorry.
And these people have crossed the line. They are sick in the mind, they are perverse and filthy. Let's not mince words dealing with them.
फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच सभी को है, लेकिन हमारी फ्रीडम वहाँ समाप्त हो जाती है जब हम किसी और के फ्रीडम पर इंक्रोच करते हैं।
हमारे देश की संस्कृति में इस तरह की गंदगी लाने का काम कोई करेगा तो उसके ऊपर कार्रवाई होना चाहिए और उसको ब्लैकलिस्टेड कर देना।
Let's quickly open this up with our guest joining us this evening, Kasturi Shankar, actor, along with Ram Subramanian, screenwriter and filmmaker, also Asimi Chandok, entertainment journalist with us, and Ashwini Dubey, advocate, completes the panel. Good evening to the four of you. Thank you so much for taking out your time. This is indeed the talk of the nation. You know, we've seen a lot of comments come in on social media. The government has also begun responding. There are complaints being filed, children's rights bodies taking cognizance. So all of that is happening. But my first question is to Mr. Subramanian. Mr. Subramanian, there has been a debate in the country on what makes the cut for good content, bad content, acceptable, unacceptable. And amidst all of these discussions, freedom of speech, freedom of expression that has been spoken of in political corridors as well. How do you see these remarks which were made by Ranveer Allahbadia? He's come out to apologize, a sincere apology indeed, but is that enough after what he said?
I mean, to start with, what he said is something which is disturbing for many people because of the nature of the content. It doesn't fly very easily in our culture. Yeah. But it is also something which he said in a show, which is like a YouTube show. It is not something that he came out and said this in like a public forum to an audience which was not intending to be a part of this kind of humor or of this kind of program. So that was picked up from this space and then it was made viral on platforms. So is it a problem because it has gone viral? Yes, the only problem is that it went viral, and it is not a problem because people who were part of the show were okay with this kind of content. So unfortunately, it was a non-issue which has become a very big issue in our country at this point of time.
Why I'm asking you this, and I do see Kasturi and Simi both nod their heads. Both of them want to come in.
When he says that the people on the show, the other guests on the show were okay with it. That is a factual error. I'm sorry to say. If you look at Samay, Raina, he himself is shocked and he's like, what the... an expletive, okay? And then there's another Sardar gentleman there. He himself is saying ki Ranveer bhai, aapko kya ho gaya hai? So even they were in complete shock, and Samay Rana, for once, his jaw dropped in shock. Like, what is Ranveer even saying?
I mean, let's not forget that there is a post-production of all of these episodes that take place, and if indeed the others had taken strong objection to this, this would have been removed. It would not have been aired, neither would have it gone viral. But my problem is not that, and that's not the question I want to restrict myself to. And I can quickly bring in Kasturi into the conversation before I come back to the both of you. Kasturi, the problem is that here's a person who's held several interesting podcasts, insightful podcasts, has a great, huge following. I mean, anybody of who knows the digital space knows of Ranveer Allahbadia, and that is the problem here.
1 crore
Yes,
subscribers.
absolutely,
1 crore.
Kasturi. So isn't
Okay,
there any
can
sense
the
of
other
responsibility
guest,
these
Simi,
social media
give me a spot.
influencers, podcasters carry?
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to start with by responding to Mr. Ramasubramanian's opening comments about, this was a private gathering. It was not meant for public consumption. The only problem is it went viral. What you're essentially saying, Mr. Ramasubramanian, is it was wrong. You're not justifying the issue. You're saying it was wrong, but it was only wrong because it got caught, because it got noticed. Are we going to stretch this argument to other stuff? It was pedophilia, but he only did it in his bedroom. It was not meant to be seen or known by anyone else. The only problem is now everybody knows about it. Is that what we are saying? Ma'am, I did not know about Allah. Excuse me, sir. I did not know about, I am sitting in Hyderabad. Unfortunately, I was in Allahabad in the morning. Can you see the irony of being in Allahabad and reading this news about a man called Allahbadia? It was so traumatizing for a person like me.
Sorry to interrupt you. He's very much from Bombay, and I think he's a Punjabi boy. He's not from Allahabad.
I understand that.
Kasturi
But
is just
now
trying to...
I understand. I'm not saying anything about the place, but let me finish. The point is, it was the irony of somebody associating a name with 144 years of punya, and here's a man holding the name of that place in a surname and talking absolute filth. I'm just saying, would you have posed the same question to your siblings? Would you have asked the same question to yourself? Instead of saying your parents, could you have said my parents? Then it would have been, a fair game. Ask the contestant, who was obviously completely traumatized as well, if you had seen the show. Ask them, what would you do? Would you see me doing nonsense? Would you rather see me in a sexual position, or would you put a stop to it? Why didn't you put yourself or your panel mates in that question? Because you know that it's only okay if you're talking nonsense about other people. It's sexual provocation. There's another person in the same show offering 2 crores for a sexual act. That is an offense. Absolutely clearly an offense.
The other thing is, imagine the position that the contestant finds himself or herself in, right? You're raising this with a contestant who's out there to showcase his talent or whatever skills he has, and then you pose this kind of a question under the garb of roasting. Now, that terminology in itself has become problematic over the years, I feel.
I just want to finish. These people are not that popular in South India. None of us here in Telangana, Andhra or Tamil Nadu have heard of these guys. Also in an age bracket where I am, the older people, we have not heard of him. So I really fear for the one generation in a particular geographical area that is actually holding these people as
No, but Kasturi, even in his apology, I must tell you this, even in his apology, he's come out to say, one second, Kasturi, one second, even in his apology, he's come out to say that comedy is not his forte, but he's also apologized to the several audiences he caters to, and he's spoken of the different age groups, because he's held political conversations, he's held societal conversations, he's held all sort of conversations through his podcast. So there's a wider generation that is very much his audience. So that's the little update that I want to share with you. But Mr. Dubey, how do you see this? The broadcast. I'll come to you, Kasturi. Kasturi and Simi, I'm coming to you. Let Mr. Dubey also come in with his opening remarks. Mr. Dubey, the Broadcasting Bill 2024, we saw a lot of political criticism. Once again, there were those who were advocating for freedom of speech, saying that this is going to curtail all of that, especially for social media influencers, bloggers going forward. But that bill was withdrawn. Now, doesn't this call for a stricter regulation in the online space? And what do you think is the government's intent there? What do they plan to do, and what should they do given that this is not a one-off incident. This is come to light, it's gone viral, we've seen a lot of objection being raised, criticism come in, but we've seen several such instances in the past.
You see, there should have been a law, not now, not when a hue and cry was made, not the Ranveer Allahbadia made a statement which gone viral. The parliament is duty bound to make a law which is well within the constitution. The constitution says that anything which is contrary to the public order, decency, morality, then that should there is an article 19 subclause 2. Freedom of expression does not come in the way of saving that person. See, the right to privacy is not absolute. The 9 judges bench of Supreme Court in Justice K.S. Puttuswamy case also said, see, you have a right to privacy, but that should not be an attempt to encroach on others' right. This is one. 2. Freedom of expression is also not absolute, which is given in the constitution of your time. And again, people say, I have a right. It's my freedom of speech and expression. Article 19(2), well placed just after that in the constitution itself says that is subject to public order, decency, morality, or the law framed by the parliament. See, knowingly transmitting obscene contents on social media, which has hurt the sentiments of many, even the minors have seen it. And for the minors, we have a law, POCSO Act, which does not that you have to especially hurt the sentiments of anyone. It's again gone viral. That person can be punished, that person can be prosecuted. Not only this, you come to the BNS and earlier Indian Penal Code, publication and sale of obscene books. He's earning money out of it. Obscene contents, going something viral. There is a punishment under Section 292. Even if you see the Information Technology Act, which is in force in this country, Section 67 specifically deals for publishing, transmitting obscene material in material form. Where from this right has come, we don't know. I think that the government of India must bring a law. That's a different thing. That people like Ranveer Allahbadia must be booked, taken to the logical end, so that the people should not misuse it. Now the other aspect.
So how challenging could this be, Mr. Dubey? Before I go across to others, for Allahbadia, legally speaking, what could this mean for him? Because we're talking about the several charges that could be slapped against him. Complaints have already been filed. I don't think this is going to die down anytime soon. But how far could this go for him?
FIR should be registered and he should be taken to the logical end. He should be taken to the custody. This cannot be permitted in this country. It's not the constitution. If you cry for the constitutional freedom, then you must look into the constitutional morality. Now, two very specific question I'm asking. That there is an intermediary guidelines. Very basic question. One, if something has happened on an electronic channel like you, then there is a law of the land which says that the action should follow. Yeah. But if the social media platforms which are not amenable to the law of this country, which are registered outside the country like US or other countries, and they do not follow the law of the country, but they earn money out of the advertisements of the publications, they should also be held accountable. And that is why there is a need to have a regulation in the parliament. Unless the regulation with the stricter punishment comes in this country, these things will keep happening. See, once what popularity or what money he wanted to gain, he has already gained. Now, by making that I have done it, mujhe maaf kar do, does not absolve him from the liability. So what is it? Is the duty of lawmakers and also the prosecuting agency to look into it, that he should be punished. He should be taken to the hand.
Okay, we will have to wait a little while, Mr. Dubey, to see how this plays out for him legally. Simi wants to come in. Simi, I also want you to particularly respond on one thing. Since you've been tracking the entertainment industry, I want to understand from you the rise of these social media influencers, and the pattern that one also sees very clearly is how some of these tools, I would want to call this a tool right now, is also used to gain popularity. That is most unfortunate.
Exactly, in fact, Christine, I've been Googling like every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, Bollywood reacts to Ranveer Allahbadia controversy. Bollywood, says Ranveer Allahbadia should apologize. Nothing. Bollywood is quiet because he has 1 crore followers and he calls all these people on his show. Now, what is disturbing here is that yes, he knows he's an influencer. Yes, he knows that he can get to the people. He has done shows like Daddy Problems, okay, because I think he's from a single parent family. Then he's done a whole episode with his mom. Again, that was a little disturbing. Let me it will get into context here. Right now it may sound out of context, but he did one whole episode with his mom and how she's like the epicenter of his entire life. And then his mom is saying that I think children today, the moment they grow up, when they are 18 or 19 or whenever they are adults, they should just leave their parents and start living alone. You know what? You're a very entitled lady. You're an educated lady and you are a doctor. If I'm not wrong, she's a gynecologist. It's very easy for you to say that, ki leave your parents and let them go. What about the lower middle class and middle class families in small towns and cities, or say even Bombay or Delhi, Mumbai or Delhi? Parents who have sold everything, who have taken loans to make their children get educated, the child just walks away. She's herself was talking against the Sanskriti of our country. Don't we already have problems with children dumping their parents, what the senior citizens are going through? And then she says this because she's entitled, she's making money, she has crores sitting on her, she doesn't need her son, she's used to living alone. You know, and then he talks about daddy issues, then he talks about Sanatana, and then he talks about, you know, how you can attain moksha, and he gets people from ISKCON and such responsible, respectful
and that's the kind of content that he decides, Simi, that he wants to put out on his channel. It's perhaps, no, don't you think it's up to the consumer? No, I'm just saying, isn't it then maybe your choice or my choice to also ensure that, all right, if this is the kind of content that we're seeing on his channel, then we're going to refrain from watching this content. What explains the kind of following he has?
You know, today, Christine, you can take away the internet and mobile data subscription from your young child, you know, whoever it is, daughter or son. But you cannot stop them. They're going to grab your phone and put hotspot on them. They're going to be playing games and they're going to go to YouTube and watch their kind of funny shows, you know. So they have to be responsible. You cannot say it's a choice whether I put on YouTube or I don't. Like right now, let's say, only people on YouTube watched it. But today, the entire country and every NRI outside India is watching this. And even if they are not his YouTube subscribers, they're already aware of the incestual remarks he has made that are highly insensitive. And I refuse to accept his apology. What is the apology? You know what is more disturbing here, Christine? That the conversation has got leaked. I'm sure everybody's aware of that. So the voice messages that are being played out on the internet, Samay Raina is clearly telling him what we want and what we are going to do and how we baja everybody's band. So that means Ranveer somewhere had some doubts, you know, he had some hesitation in his mind, but he still went ahead with it. And then when it happens, why post it? Take it off. So what were they waiting for?
That's what I began by asking.
Secondly, there's a problem. You know, he used to get a lot of monks and I got very impressed by him, and I'm like, you know, when my son is older, I want him to be like Ranveer Allahbadia. He's so evolved at 31. And then I start seeing that he's even talking about occult and everything. And from whatever I know of being in journalism and especially broadcast journalism, the INB ministry has been very, very clear that we cannot promote any superstitious content on our channels. The same can apply to
that's
YouTube,
why this renewed call for regulation on social media content. But Ram, to take your point forward, you know, I think there's consensus, at least in the other three panelists, that the problem also arises when under the garb of freedom of expression, you know, you're not really realizing the responsibility that you carry as a famous social media face, influencer, blogger, podcaster, so many titles to your name. But where's the responsibility? If you can so conveniently forget where you're coming from, who are the people who've supported you through this journey, and end up making these kind of offensive remarks.
And one half-hearted apology when he says, I cannot give any explanations. All I can say is I'm sorry.
Simi, let him respond.
That's all he's saying with his chin-up pose, I'm sorry.
Okay. Ram.
So Ranveer's responsibility was only to his audience and to the maker of the show. I heard about, like, you know, how some WhatsApp messages have gone viral, saying this is the expected format of the show.
But he did have a choice. He had a choice to turn it down.
Yes, but he didn't expect the format of the show, or like he didn't expect his involvement to be blown out of proportion to this point. I believe it was I believe it is Kasturi who said, like, it has become a problem.
He said that out
because
of his own will.
Can I finish?
Simi, let him finish. We have limited time, and I want to give 30 seconds to Kasturi as well before I wrap up. So let him finish. Ram.
Yeah. So basically, I think Kasturi said, like, you know, it became a problem because it went viral. Of course, it became a problem only because it went viral. Second thing is, Is it obscene? It's distasteful and disturbing. Yes, it is obscene to me. But is it illegal? That the law decides.
No,
And
but there's also emotional and psychological impact of exposure to this kind of content, especially amongst the young who are really dependent on this kind of social media content, Kasturi, don't you think? I mean, that factor cannot be ruled out.
Yeah, so the people who are subscribing to his podcast or people who are subscribing to the channel on which it was played on, they expect this kind of content. They expect this kind of. And when you said, "Oh, his jaw
then
dropped,"
that I think is time for us to reflect on where we're headed as a society. Kasturi, I mean, he's right in pointing out that when he did make those remarks, there was a huge applause that came in from the audience. A huge applause that came in from the audience. So it's problematic on multiple levels, don't you think?
Also, can I just
shut the people
Ram,
down?
I need to quickly go to her. The unlimited time.
This is not
last
freedom
few
of
seconds.
expression. Yeah, shut the people down, shut the podcast down. If what Mr. Ramasubramaniam is saying, that there are crores and crores of people who expect this kind of, if they expect this kind of content, that is wrong, it is illegal, it's offensive, and it is antisocial. Shut the podcast down, shut the people down, give them warnings. Start censoring such content in the absence of any rules to regulate this kind of content in India. Shut the platform down.
Okay, Ram, last word to you. How do you respond to all of these comments? A lot of criticism coming in from him. A lot of people saying boycott Ranveer altogether. Do you think they're going too harsh on him? He's come out to offer a sincere apology.
And before that, I would like to say what you said about. Can I speak? I mean, I would like to say which way are we headed? I mean, we are headed to a world where every individual is also a broadcaster today. Are you going to censor everybody? That's a mammoth task for any government. It's not going to happen. We are living in a world where Kanye West, he goes on to a show, which is the Grammy, and that's the kind of audience he has. And that's what he does, which is broadcast everywhere. It's a derivative culture.
No, but Ram, that's where these few checks and balances need to come into place so that they prompt a self-reflection on part of these influencers who are heavily relying for their money on these social media platforms, who are heavily influencing the people of the country. But with this kind of an irresponsible approach, I'm afraid it's going to backfire like it has in Ranveer's case. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. That's all the time we had. That's all we could pack for you for now. But we head into a short break. On the other side, we shift our attention to the state of Tamil Nadu. The centre and the Stalin government are at loggerheads yet again. This time it's over the national education policy and funds for the education sector in the state. We'll get you more details and take